The Second Circuit handed down a very important fraudulent transfer decision on February 25 in the liquidation of the Bernard Madoff Ponzi scheme. Here's how it went down. So-called offshore feeder funds located in places like the Cayman Islands were some of the largest investors in the Madoff fraud. They in turn got their money from their own investors who were also nominally located abroad. The Second Circuit had previously held that any investors in the Madoff fraud who took out more than they had invested in cash are so-called net winners who have to disgorge those, let's call them fictitious profits, as the proceeds of a fraudulent transfer with actual intent to hinder and delay. When the Madoff fraud all came tumbling down, many of those feeder funds were so-called net winners. Now, unfortunately, the Madoff bankruptcy put many, if not most, of those feeder funds into their own liquidations abroad. So therefore, the Madoff trustee essentially could not recover from the feeder funds, but he could sue the feeder funds investors as subsequent transferees under Section 550. Now, here was the rub. Because in 2014, District Judge Judd Rakoff in Manhattan ruled that Sections 548 and 550 do not have extraterritorial application, and thus the Madoff trustee could not pursue those subsequent transferees abroad. Well, the Madoff trustee took 88 consolidated appeals, and thank goodness, the Second Circuit reversed on February 25. This is very important because the Second Circuit tells us that to decide whether this was a domestic or a foreign transfer, you focus on where the transfer emanated from. And in this instance, of course, the transfers all emanated from the U.S. And the Second Circuit tells us in their Madoff decision that the U.S. has every interest on earth in recovering fraudulent transfers that emanated from this country. This decision, beyond the extreme importance in the Madoff case, is also very important as a matter of policy, as frankly the Second Circuit pointed out. Because if this were not the result, then a fraudster could orchestrate the, let's say, insulation of funds from recovery by simply transferring them abroad and then having them transferred a second time. And if Judge Rakoff's decision had withstood analysis, the trustee in the U.S. would have his hands tied and could not recover those fraudulent transfers, even though they emanated from the U.S. And so, as a matter of preventing money laundering and things of that sort, the Second Circuit decision is very important. Well, you can read about that decision earlier this week, in my column, Rochelle's Daily Wire, on the ABI website. Meanwhile, I will be back same time next week to talk about something important that happened in the realm of bankruptcy. Thank you and good day.